Okay, so now we're going to focus on the spending. And one of the issues is that renters are getting impacted significantly. So for the people that have lost their jobs, they are most likely renters, and then they are unable to pay rent. And that also affects the people that own the buildings that are being rented, and that they cannot make payments to the bank regarding their loans, or there's always spending to make repairs even if they own the building outright, which is rare. A number of these properties are also not owned by any particular individual. They're also owned by various kind of funding groups. And so for those particular entities, this isn't coming as hard, but they're as much involved in the upcoming eviction crisis. So the City of Houston is working on a $19 million program to help keep people in their homes. So when it comes to the spending curve, with the CARES Act being gone, it's no longer there to prevent these drops that are happening. The spending will continue to drop because people are going to be getting kicked out of their homes, which is going to pull down the demand for goods and services, which is going to cause further job loss. So this is the eviction crisis is going to send us back down into this loop, is what I am explaining. And so this City of Houston program is seeking to halt that loop, and it's using $19 million in aid. And much of this aid is coming from the CARES Act. So you can see here we have CARES Act money that's being deployed at this later date. And part of this is that the Treasury has not been spending the money on municipalities as it should have been. There's a whole lot of money, billions of dollars, that have been allotted for this, and the Treasury has not distributed that money. So another issue that is being discussed is in the Woodlands area. They're saying, hey, we don't have unemployment insurance claims continuing to rise. So it's starting to fall off. And this is an effect of the CARES Act. Like I said, it was going to break down this loop that it got involved, and then it just moved to halt that loop. And then now that the CARES Act is no longer in place, then it's going to resume. And so you will see that this particular type of curve is going to change. And you can see a change. I wanted to point you towards the Bureau of Labor Statistics. If you look in their database, the numbers that you're looking at is the labor force participation rate. When it comes to unemployment, after a certain point in time, they just don't count you as participating in the workforce at all, so you don't even count as unemployed. And so that's where this number comes from. So here we have a number around 63% participation rate, which means that you're looking at 37% that are not even considered participating. In that 63%, you have the employed population, which is around 55%, and then you have your unemployed population, which is around 11% or so. And these numbers should add up to 100% whenever you the difference here, so you have 30% plus here, and then over here, these two numbers should add up to that number, and then you know that things are kind of making sense. All right, and so in the meantime, over in the Montgomery County, you have the Woodlands Township is saying, well, we work off of sales tax primarily, and we are getting a 5% decrease in expenditures in their budget. So the municipality is going to be spending less. Remember how I talked about this curve? Well, the spending's going down. And they work off of sales tax, and sales tax depends quite a bit on your lower lower people being able to spend. And so then with the drop in spending that they're experiencing, there's going to be a drop in goods and services, in this case from the government, and there's also going to be a loss of jobs. And because you're talking government services, that makes it a less desirable place to be. There are some parts of town that you want to live in and some parts you don't, and if you look at how expenditures are done, you start to get an idea of why one is preferred and one isn't. And similarly, the Montgomery County, so the Woodlands is inside of Montgomery County, and the Montgomery County, commissioners decided to cut their property taxes. Now, property taxes are a progressive tax, so the higher earners, that the ones with the able to afford more expensive property pay more taxes. And so they dropped it 1.4%, and there's a whole debate about dropping it further by 5.46%. And a whole protest vote going on. And once again, so what they're doing is they're looking at decreasing the amount of taxes coming in from the bigger the bigger earners, and so then that's going to have a huge effect on their budget. So then, once again, decreased spending, decreased goods and services, decreased jobs. And whenever that's in government, that affects all the services. So you're talking roads and fire and police, ambulance, you name it. So, okay, so that's Montgomery County. And now, back to the CARES Act, you have the Texas Education Agency is having this online program that a lot of schools are using, and they're saying, okay, we're going to buy a big license. They have huge purchasing power, as we saw with that unfortunate incident I was talking about in the previous show. And so they're going to reduce the expenditures that schools unexpectedly had to make. And so